Hey guys, my name is Natasha Demore, and this is episode 4 of Internet Kids, a podcast where I interview my friends about fandoms that we love. And this episode 4 is about Six of Crows. You probably haven't heard of Six of Crows. Maybe you have. It's a really, really good series of books. It's just 2 books, but they're really, really good books. And I have my really, really good friend Theo here to talk with me about Six of Crows. If you have heard of Six of Crows, then I hope you enjoy us delving deep into why we love these books so much. And if you haven't heard of it, then well, actually, this is going to be full of spoilers, so if you haven't heard of Six of Crows, go read Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo and then come back and listen to this, because we're going to talk about it a lot. So, say hi, Theo.
Hi.
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 Hi again. Are you excited to tell the world about Six of Crows?
I'm so excited to talk about my good crow kids.
They're the best kids.
They're so very good.
I'm so excited. I love Six of Crows so much. It's one of my favorite book series ever, and I've read a lot of books, and I read these only like last year or the year before, and I love them. So my first question always in this podcast, because it's the most important question when it comes to any fandom or anything ever, is who is your favorite character in Six of Crows?
Oh my god. Okay.
Oh, wait, maybe before that we should just do like a really, really quick summary of what Six of Crows is, if someone's listening to this and they haven't read it.
Sure, yes, that's a good idea.
Yeah, you can start. You told me just before we started recording that you just reread the 2 books in preparation for this podcast, so I feel like you are very prepared to explain what it is.
Yes, for the listening audience, I finished reading the second book, or rereading the second book, about 20 minutes before we filmed this, so like, I hope that I still remember what happened.
Hopefully. I haven't read them since like last summer or last Christmas, whenever the second book came out. So you are more up to date than me. Nice.
Good to be.
Mm-hmm. So you want to give like a quick little explanation of what Six of Crows is?
Okay, so Six of Crows is a fantasy heist novel. Do you think that's a apt description of the genre we're looking at?
I would say that is an accurate description, which is, it's not a genre I would have ever thought of before. It may be the only book in its genre, but that would be its genre.
Yeah, I never knew that I needed a series of fantasy heists in my life until I had them sitting in front of me, but oh my god, I want all of the books I ever read to be in this genre for the rest of my life.
It's true. It's an incredible, incredible genre. If fantasy heist wasn't descriptive enough for you, it's essentially, I mean, I guess it is a fantasy world, because people have like
magic powers.
Grisha magic powers. And it's like sort of not medieval, but like
it's
I don't know.
It's like probably more Victorian.
Yeah, Victorian rather than medieval, yeah. And there's these six kids.
Yes, well, it is called Six of Crows.
It is called Six of Crows. Yeah, that should have been a hint. And they pull a heist.
They pull a big heist. And they're all criminals.
Oh yes. It's about criminal children from a gang who break into a maximum security ice prison. And there's a lot of politics and a lot of magic and a lot of romance and friendship and wholesome good crime.
Yep. The best crime is the most wholesome of crimes.
Just a really good wholesome crime.
If you have not read Six of Crows but are a fan of the TV show Leverage, you will love Six of Crows.
I should watch Leverage. I've never heard of Leverage.
I'm going to make you watch Leverage. BTW. Leverage is a very good show.
Keep that in mind.
It has a way of using different characters' perspectives to, like, show what they know about what the heist, but everyone knows different things, so secrets get revealed, stacked systematically, and it's just beautiful.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's beautifully executed.
Are you talking about Leverage or Six of Crows here, or both?
Both.
Nice. Yeah, because I was going to say, that sounds like how it's done in Six of Crows, for sure. Like, it's full of, like, it does that thing where, like, there's so many plot twists that you never saw coming, but they don't feel like they're pulled out of nowhere. Like, when they happen, you're like, oh my god, yes, but you don't see them coming.
Yeah, you go back and the foreshadowing is all there, and you're like, oh my god.
Yeah. So, like, it pulls off plot twists really well without being, like, well, that was bullshit and came out of nowhere, it's like, oh my god, that was amazing.
Yeah. I find it very hard for books to surprise me. Like, I usually can sense plot twists coming, and I can usually, like, kind of figure out what's going on. These books surprised me so many times, and it was delightful.
They surprised me so many times in, like, the actual, like, really heavy plot stuff surprised me, but then, like, character things also surprised me, like, things we learned about the characters' backstories, things we learned about the characters' relationships, like, that stuff also surprised me, and, like, oh, it's just so good.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Okay, so we kind of summarized what it is, so back to my first most important question, who's your favorite character in Six of Crows?
Well, okay, it's a really tough pick, because obviously, the whole six are just wonderful.
Amazing.
But I think I have to say Nina is my favorite character. I mean, I did name my cat after her.
That's true. You did. Your cat is beautiful, by the way.
She is so beautiful, just like Nina.
Oh, yes. Oh, Nina's such an important character. Nina's so important. I feel like you can really go into, like, why you love her so much, but she's so good and so important.
She's very important. Very good.
Yes, that's part 2 of this question. Why is she your favorite character?
Okay, well, Nina is a plus-size queer witch.
Yes.
Which, is also what I am. So, there's a lot of relatability there. And she's always portrayed as, like, being sexy and being, like, in control of her sexuality, in a way that plus-size women rarely are shown in fiction. She's, you know, the one who uses her sexy wiles to distract people, but also just, like, I don't know. I can't even describe it.
No,
this is gonna be me the whole time. Just like, oh my god, right?
Yeah. Right. No, it's true. Like, she's definitely, like, she is the sexy character, but, like, in a way that doesn't feel gross and exploitative, because it definitely feels like she's in control of her sexuality. Like, she's doing things she wants to do, not being forced to. Because there is, like, plot lines about sexual labor and stuff in these books, and so it is definitely addressed. But when she's using her sexiness, she's using it because she wants to, kind of thing. And also the fact that she's plus size is so, like, usually that type of character wouldn't be considered sexy and stuff, and the fact that she is really great.
Yeah, it just, like, every description of Nina as, like, large and ample, and, like, there's so much emphasis on the fact that, like, her being big and soft is part of what makes her so appealing.
Yes.
Gives me life.
God, she's an amazing character. And she's a super strong Grisha, so the fantasy element in these books is there's Grisha, who are, like, witches, kind of, like, they have different kinds of powers, and then she is a heartrender, I think it's called, and so it's like...
Yes, she is a heartrender.
There's different types of Grisha, and then there's one that's, like, the body, like, the Grisha who can do things with the body, and there's 2 types. There's, like, the healer types, and then there's the, like, fighter types, and she's the fighter type, so she can, like, essentially, like, stop your heart and, like, stop your lungs and control your blood and stuff.
Yes, you can collect Grisha like Pokemon. She is the fighter blood type Grisha.
Yeah.
You can also get the fighter storm type Grisha, or, like...
Yeah. There's, like, 3 categories, I think. There's, like, the Corporalki, I think they're called, which are, like, the body ones.
Corporalki.
Etherealki, which are, like, controlling different, like, elements and stuff. And then Materialki.
Yeah,
which are, like...
control,
like, metal and paint and materials, essentially.
Yeah. Essentially, like...
And then there's different types...
inanimate objects.
Yeah, and then there's different types in each of those types that have different names.
And sometimes... those can start to overlap.
Yeah.
There's a character who uses both Corporalki and Etherealki techniques. And Nina also does this, or not Etherealki, Materialki techniques. Nina also does this with an act called tailoring, which is using inanimate objects, like pulling from them to create a disguise, like in a person's face. which is very cool.
Yeah, it's so cool. The magical element in these books is really neat. It's like very it's both like cool in like a fantasy way, like exploring like what these powers are, but there's also like a lot of politics in their world surrounding these powers and the people who have these powers, and that's like a big part of the plot as well, which is really cool. It's like the magic and the whole politics around it is like interwoven into their world, and it's really neat. And well done.
So if you're Russian, I understand that the witches are basically all called Greg, and that might be like a little distracting.
Is that true? Is
like,
it?
Please.
Is Grisha just a common
Grisha,
name in Russia?
Grisha is a nickname for Grigori, which is like the Russian equivalent of Gregory.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah,
great.
please stick with it.
Despite that, it's great, I promise. The writing too, like, it's very well written. It's very, very well written. These books are amazingly written. You won't want to put them down. They're so good. Despite the fact that the witches are apparently named after Greg, which I didn't know.
It's fun. You know what? It sounds really cool when you don't speak Russian.
Oh, that's fun. Okay, so Nina's your favorite character. I also adore Nina, but my favorite character is definitely Jesper.
Jesper is so good.
I love him. I love Jesper so much. He's like, so his main, okay, so fair warning here, we are definitely going to spoil things. So either be prepared to have stuff spoiled for you or read these books before you listen to this podcast, because the next things I'm going to say about Jesper are going to be spoilers. So Jesper is also Grisha, like Nina, but you don't know that for most of the first book because he doesn't, like, want to be or like want to acknowledge it, because and you like learn more of his backstory, but he essentially, because like I said, there's a lot of politics surrounding Grisha in this world, and like Grisha are often like persecuted and stuff, so he kind of grew up being like, I'm not gonna explore that part of myself. So for the first like book, he's a sharpshooter. I mean, he's still a sharpshooter after, but and it's just there's so many, I love this character so much. There's so much stuff you learn about him, and he's so fun. He's the sort of like goofy friend guy, like he's Kaz, the main character. He's kind of like Kaz's right-hand man, and he's like sort of jokey, but then there's like so much depth to his character too, with like his whole like being Grisha, and also he has like a serious gambling addiction, which is played very seriously and not as like a joke.
Yeah, I want to say like a thing that Nina and Jesper have in common is that they both have addiction narratives that are handled really well.
Very seriously. Like Jesper's whole like gambling addiction, when the very beginning of the first book, it's kind of like, oh, that's a character quirk, he loves to gamble, and then like as the story goes on, and especially in the second book, you realize like this is a very significant part of his character, and it is like, it's not a jokey light thing to have a gambling addiction, and it's a sign of like other issues and stuff. And I just love him so much. But he's still very light and like a funny guy, and I love that kind of character that's like a goofy character with like a lot of depth. And also Nina and Jesper are both canonically bisexual.
That's the good stuff.
I mean, it's not said. I mean, I don't think they ever say the word bisexual, but like they both show romantic interest in people of both genders throughout the story, and they're very flirty and great, and I love both of them a lot.
People of multiple genders throughout the story.
Multiple genders, yes, sorry. Yes.
It's very nice to have it, like, both of the characters put it into words at some point. They're like, I like also girls, or like also boys.
Yeah.
It's, like, explicitly stated by the characters, which is nice. It's not just like, well, you know.
Yeah. No, it's part of their characters, and it's part of their narratives. And the word bisexual or pansexual isn't used, and I think it's also part of like, you know, this fantasy world, and they don't have the same terms and whatever. Yeah,
and it's also Victorian era where that wasn't
a thing.
Widely.
But the concept, like the fact that they are attracted to multiple genders, is flat out stated by both of them and by other characters who acknowledge it. So. And the thing is, this universe, the Grisha universe, because Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom are 2 books in this universe, and then there's 3 other books that the author wrote before that called the Grisha trilogy, which I also read and are also pretty good. I don't like them as much as like Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, but in those books, it's established, and in these ones as well, that like sexuality and like being attracted to same gender, other genders is like just a thing in this like it isn't like people, it's not a prejudice in this universe. Like there are a lot of things people are persecuted for in this universe, but sexuality isn't one of them, which is like really interesting and refreshing for a fantasy world.
Yeah, it's nice So, I mean, obviously sometimes you want to, like, bring the complexities of your world into fantasy, but, like, in stories like this, it's nice that I'm like, I don't have to worry about, like, someone being shitty, and I'm gonna have to read that and, like, deal with it. I just know that, like, everyone's gonna be like, yeah, sure.
Yeah. It's nice, because it's, like, there is complexities in the story, and it does explore, like, issues of prejudice and whatever, but the fact that, like, it's like, this is a fantasy world. There's no reason why in this fantasy world, you know, like, people have to be super homophobic. It can just not be a thing in this world, and it just isn't. And it's just, I don't know, it's very refreshing and very nice, and that there are, and in the Grisha trilogy, there's, like, some side characters who are queer, but not the main characters, but then in this book, we get Nina and Jesper and Wylan, who's another of the main characters, who just flat out...
And Kuei.
Yes, and Kuei, another one of the main characters, he's more in the second book, who are just, flat out not straight, and it's part of their character, and they are main characters, and it's excellent.
Yep, and it's nice, like, one of, you know, Nina is in a relationship with a person of a different gender than her, and Jesper is in a relationship by the end of the book with a person who is the same gender as him. So, and it's nice, like, their relationships aren't treated as any differently, or, like, implied that, like, because they're in this relationship, they're, like, less attracted to the other gender than they would be if they were out of a relationship or in a relationship with, you know, someone, a different person, which is really nice.
Yeah, like, Nina's main romantic plot line, which is a big part of her character and a big part of just the story, is with a guy, with Matthias, but it's never like, oh, well, she's straight now because she loves this guy. It's like, no, she loves him and also is attracted to people of other genders, and it doesn't, like, take that away just because her main love interest in this storyline is a guy, which is good.
Yeah, it feels like whichever way authors or writers go with a bisexual character, it, like, leaves someone feeling disappointed, and it turns out that the way to avoid that is just to have, like, more of them. So you can represent
you can have more than one queer character.
Yeah.
Fun fact. Who would have thought?
4 out of 7 main characters are queer, so that's a pretty good number, personally speaking. Are canonically queer.
Yeah. And there's nothing to say Kaz and Matthias and Inej wouldn't be in... I mean, I feel like for Matthias it would be... Well, again, we don't know that Matthias's culture actually would have anything wrong with...
You know that Inej and Nina are a little bit in love, too.
Oh, and Inej definitely kind of would definitely go for Nina if she wasn't so obsessed with Kaz.
Yeah.
And then, so Matthias is a character who lives in a culture that's very prejudiced against Grisha and very, like, prudish about a lot of things.
Very
but
reserved.
It's never, I don't think, ever implied that he has a problem with Nina or Jesper being attracted to multiple genders. So it's interesting that with all the prejudices that his culture has, like, that is never brought up as an issue. Like, his issue with Nina is that she's so flirty, but not to any particular gender, right? Like, he never seems more upset that she would flirt with girls versus guys. He's just like, no, how dare you be so forward in general, right?
Yeah.
Which is nice. That's really consistent throughout this universe, that there are many things that people have issues with, but who you're attracted to doesn't seem to be an issue. And like, Jesper's dad, like, meets Wylan and is just like, oh yeah. Like,
this is a good boy for my son.
Yeah, you're a good un. I like you.
You'll keep my boy honest.
Yeah, which is just so adorable. I love Jesper's dad so much.
Oh, I know.
I really love Jesper a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Jesper also is interesting. There's a lot of, like, different cultures and, like, races in the universe that are obviously fantasy races, but definitely very much inspired by real world races. And Jesper is mixed race because his dad is from essentially fantasy Ireland. I think Ireland.
It's Ireland, yeah.
And his mom is from fantasy, I don't really know where, like...
It probably, like, some fantasy African
nation, yeah. We don't see as much of, like, or know as much about that land. We mostly see Kirsch, which is where the... Kirsch? Which is where...
I don't know.
The main story takes place, which is very, like... That's the one that's more like Victorian England.
It's really more fantasy Dutch. It's
Is
like
it? I don't know enough about Dutch.
Well, Ketterdam is basically Amsterdam,
oh,
right?
Yeah.
It's like a city with canals instead of streets.
That actually makes a lot of sense. So they're in fantasy Amsterdam, but they're from a lot of different places which are based on other real world cultures. And I don't remember where I was going with that, but it's a very interesting world, and the characters are from, like, they're all in Ketterdam, but they're not all from Ketterdam. And like the fantasy sort of based in real world, but sort of fantasy cultures are like all significant to their characters. Like it's some more than others, but like their like backstory cultures are like related to their stories as characters, which is interesting as well.
And each country has a different opinion of like Grisha. Some have different words for them.
Mm-hmm.
I think we definitely learned the Zemeni word.
Zemeni, that's the one I was trying to think of. That's where
Navia Zem.
Yes, that's where Jesper's mom is from. He's half Zemeni, half Wandering Isle. There's a name for it as well. Kalish.
Yeah. And Jesper grew up in Navia Zem.
Mm-hmm.
On a Jurda farm,
which is a fantasy, not quite a drug, sort of like really intense coffee. It's like a legal drug stimulant plant that a lot of people use in this world. And Navia Zem like apparently grows a lot of it, and it's an intrinsic thing to the plot because regular Jurda is like a thing that everyone uses as like a stimulant to keep you awake and stuff, but then the big plot is that they've developed this new very powerful drug based on Jurda. Like that's like a super intense Jurda that gives Grisha insane power, but also like kills them eventually. Yeah. It's a very interesting world. That's really like, it doesn't just tack magic onto another plot. It ties these magical elements, like that's what the plot is.
It's like, all right, I'm gonna keep making references to other pieces of media because that's only way I know how to speak. I hope geeks also understand my language. So it's like if you took Tamara Pierce's Tortall novels, but like you took her ideology out of the 80s and like had actual progressive ideas and not like shitty ones. Sorry, Tamara Pierce's novels are very good and like for their time were very progressive, but now they're kind of embarrassing to read.
I've never read them, but I will take that. I hope people who have read Tamara Pierce will take that as a recommendation of these books. Because they really do explore issues really well, and they're really good.
Yeah. If you wanted to read a book that was kind of like Tortall, but the female main character doesn't end up married and pregnant by the end of the story, this is for you.
There you go. No one is married or pregnant ever in these. Well, I mean, I'm sure some random adult characters are married, but the main characters don't get married or get pregnant.
There are significant married and pregnant characters in
there is
books,
actually, now I think about it, there is a very significant pregnant character, but it's not one of the main characters.
They're all actually too young to get married and pregnant.
They're kids. They're like all like 17ish. Like
or younger,
possibly older or younger. I think Matthias is like 18, and I think everyone else is like 17 or younger. I could be wrong about that.
Inez,
I don't know why I think Matthias is older.
She's like maybe 16.
Oh my god, she's a baby.
I know she is, because she was she was brought to the menagerie when she was 14, and that was like somewhere between a year and 2 years before the story starts.
And then she's been with Kaz for a while as his spider, his like spy informant person.
His wraith.
Yes. Kaz is another really, I mean, they're all really good characters. Kaz is like not the main character because they're all kind of the main character, but like Kaz is like the leader, I guess, of the group, so he's like kind of seems like more of the main character. All right. Maybe I'll go to our next question. Which is when and how did you get into Six of Crows? Like, how did you find out about it?
I think this is actually a funny story. I kind of found out, I mean, it's not.
Oh.
I don't know why I said that.
Okay.
Now everybody's waiting for this hilarious story, and it's really just that there was a point in my life where I had heard about the Raven Boys, and I had heard about Six of Crows, and my brain had kind of melded them into one book.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm going to get this Raven Crow book, and realized they were different and bought both of them. My life was changed for the better both times.
Oh, yes. That side note, Raven, if you haven't read the Raven Cycle, it's a series of 4 books that are also some of my favorite books of all time. Might make a podcast about those as well. But anyways, side note and...
and side note.
And side note.
Sorry. Yeah, and so I read the first one, and it was really good. And then I went and got the Grisha trilogy, and I read that, and I didn't like it as much. Like you said, her books have definitely gotten progressively better.
Yeah, you can tell the Grisha trilogy wasn't, the way I see it is like the Grisha trilogy wasn't bad, but the Grisha trilogy is very standard fantasy. It's like, oh yeah, this is a young adult fantasy series. It's cool. It's fun. It's not bad. But, like, I don't think I'd be, like, super, super excited about it. But then Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom is, like, the writing is better, the story is better, the characters are better. It's, like, it goes from being, like, a good book to, like, a fantastic book, I would say, is the difference.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I also, like, care less about, like, the politics of a magic civil war than I do about the politics of, like, awesome heists.
The heist is more fun.
It's so... good.
It is. It's so unique. Like it's everything. Like the plot is more unique. The characters. The characters are so good in Six of Crows. Like we didn't talk about everyone in depth, but like every single character is complex and interesting and unique and like just so good. They're all so good, and I love them all so much.
Sorry this podcast is just entirely us like gushing and crying about Six of Crows.
If you listen to the first 3 of my podcasts, that's all I do. This is just me talking about things I really love and why they're so good. Also, going back to talking about the characters, there's a lot of really good disability representation in the characters.
Yes.
Like Kaz, who's the main character, walks with a cane. Like he broke his leg previously when he was younger and it didn't heal correctly, and he's like this freaking badass. Everyone's terrified of him. He's like a gang leader who like walks with a cane and has a limp and has like pain and is just like part of his character. And he has like really severe like PTSD and like flashbacks and stuff, which are also a big part of his character. But he's like this badass, and God, I love Kaz a lot.
One of the great things about this book is that Leigh Bardugo is also a person who uses a cane.
Yes.
And so she put a lot of herself into Kaz. And it shows that she, like, actually knows what this feeling is and what it's like. And isn't trying to write, like, a motivational story or whatever. And she isn't trying to write someone who is, like, completely unaffected by their disability. She's really just like, this is his character, and like, this is what he is. Yeah, it's really a good balance, because sometimes in stories, like, there'll be characters with disabilities, and it'll feel so like unrealistic. Like you can be a freaking badass, but like it's still something that affects your life, and you can't, and so it's like it's acknowledged as Sorry, what was that?
I'm not sure what you referenced, but
I just said Daredevil.
Oh, I think you said Hannibal. I was like, wait, who's disabled in Hannibal?
I don't know.
I mean,
is cannibalism a disability?
Yeah.
I don't know. Jury's out.
But yeah, it's like, so it's realistic. It realistically affects him, but also it's not like, oh, look at this, inspiration porn. Like, it's just part of his character. And there's also like one of the main characters, Wylan, is just like severely dyslexic, and like it's a big part of his character and his like backstory that he can't read, and that he like he's like a rich kid. Like he grew up, like his dad is like a merchant, really rich merchant, and his dad was like terrible to him because like, well, you can't inherit my whatever merchant empire if you can't read, so you're like useless to me. And it's just like he's such an interesting character as well. I also adore Wylan. And it's like an interesting, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, it's like another thing like similar to like Jesper's whole like gambling addiction. It's like something that like could be like a character quirk that's like dealt with very seriously, while still not being like, oh, this poor character can't do anything, you know? I don't know. I think it's done very well.
Yeah, it is. And while we're talking about Jesper, I want to say that, at least for me, Jesper is very ADD coded.
Oh, yeah,
like,
100%. And it's very tied to the gambling addiction and stuff as well, which is very interesting.
Yeah, he's always frantic energy, needs to be doing something, can't sit still, which is something that, like, from my childhood, I just immediately was like, oh yeah, that's me. We're good. I understand this completely.
Yeah. No, Jesper is
There are so many relatable characters.
God, I know. I love Jesper so much. Yeah, very relatable and very like, yeah, and I think it's really interesting that like, again, it's like, ADHD character is so funny. It's like, no, it's like tied to so much of his character and tied to like his issues with the gambling addiction. It's like it's a way of like somewhere to put that energy, and like and it's interesting. It's like because the restlessness and stuff is also like tied in the fantasy sense to like his not using his powers and whatever, but it's like still like it's like a kind of a fantasy disability, but it's like tied to a real life thing, and there's no way of saying that like he wouldn't have this aspect of his character even if he did use his powers.
He also, if I may, in the second book, he describes his mother as having had the same frantic energy he did, and she was a Grisha who used her powers.
Yeah.
So, like, it may actually just be like an inherited thing.
Yeah, question 2. Oh yeah, how did I get into Six of Crows? You told me about it. You told me it was really good and then I should read it. And I was like, okay. And I read the first book in like, they're quite long books, and I read it in like 2 days, and I freaking loved it. And then I read the second one when it came out. And God, it was just like, I hadn't been reading a lot around that time. And then I sat down and read this book, and I was like, oh my God, like I haven't read something this good in so long. It just captures you. It's so good.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of our stories of like, oh, how did you get into this thing? Is like, I peer pressured you into it, or you peer pressured me into
90% of the media we consume, we got each other into, because we have very similar tastes.
Yeah.
In what we enjoy.
Really love those awful criminal children.
God,
we do.
I love, and my favorite thing is like found family kind of like misfit groups, and that's exactly what this is. It's all these like sad misfit characters finding family in each other, and I love them so much. So happy for them that they found each other. My question 3, and I don't even know if I could pick one, but is, what is your favorite part of Six of Crows or Crooked Kingdom? Is there like a scene or a part or an aspect of it that's like your favorite?
I mean, I think like, well, I like if there's one scene, it's, you know, the scene in the courtroom where everything comes together.
And in the second book?
At the end of the second book, when, you know, the full scope of the heist is revealed and everyone gets their comeuppance. That's great. But I also, as I was rereading it, was really intensely drawn to Nina's arc in the second book of it. At the end of the first book, Nina takes some of the really bad Grisha killing drug in order to save her found family from an army.
She's amazing.
And she's amazing. She's very good. She spends the second book kind of recovering from that. The drug is so powerful that even taking it once leaves you addicted to it. So it is, she has her addiction storyline. She also, her power doesn't work the same way it used to. And there's this whole thing with her of like accepting that she will never be the person that she used to be before this traumatic event happened, but that she can find a new, like, she finds a new power, and that she can become, you know, herself, the next step of herself, and, you know, build herself back up stronger, which, I don't know, that's a very appealing storyline to me. It's also a little gross and morbid, which I'm very a fan of.
What? Yeah, no, her story is really good. this 2-book, it's just 2 books, but I think it does a really, really good job of being a book and a sequel, because there's like, the second book is so strong as well. Like, the first book is great, and the second book is so strong because it really does like take these characters that were built up in the first book and really like delve deeper into their storylines and their issues and their like, just like, there's so much. Like, Nina and Jesper both have amazing arcs in the second book, and so do the other characters. Like, it's really good.
Yeah. Kaz and Inej have a really intense arc.
Yes.
They're 2 characters who have PTSD and who are both touch-averse. But they're, starting to fall for each other and trying to pull back all of their layers of armor and be able to touch each other is this, like, really difficult thing they're trying to do. And obviously, like, they don't have therapists to help them deal with
they're
this.
In magical
they're
medieval Victorian times.
Magical Victorian times. But it's, I don't know, there's a lot of stuff that if you are a person who experiences PTSD or really any kind of mental illness or disability that you like has had an impact on your life and that you have to deal with, these characters are very appealing and relatable, and their struggles are very relatable, and so it feels obviously like it's hard to read, it's difficult, but it also feels like a little bit nice and safe because, like, that, like, you feel understood.
Yeah. They feel very, very real and very much not, like, it is exploring a lot of, like, mental illness and issues, and it never feels very, like, performative or very, like, using it for shock value or whatever. Like, it feels very real to these characters.
It's very much just like an exploration of how to recover from trauma with, amazing characters and who are trying to support each other while also doing some fantasy crime.
Yes, while also doing it's so, like, there is all these really significant, like, things that are being explored, but it's fun too. Like, the heists and the magic and the plots and the ploys are fun and wild and creative, and so it's also fun to read. It's not just like constantly like bogging you down with like all these really difficult like issues. It's a really good balance, I think.
It is.
My favorite part, I think, there's like a lot of really, really good, deep, important favorite parts that are like serious and important, but one of my favorite parts that's just fun is in the second book when Kuei still looks Wylan still looks like Kuei because of plot shenanigans from the first book, and like Jesper thinks it's Wylan and goes to kiss him, but it's actually Kuei. It's like such a like
so good. And
dumb misunderstanding moment, but it got me so good.
It's so obvious that Kuei orchestrated it to 100% to make out with Jesper.
It's so excellent on so many levels.
Kuei has such an adorable, like, weird baby crush on Jesper.
It's so cute because I love Kuei. He's such he's not a hugely important character. He's only in it a little bit, but I adore him.
I mean, he's hugely important as far as plot goes, but he doesn't like do a lot. Yeah,
he's very important to the plot. He's less important as an actual character because he's not like one of them criminals, right? He got kidnapped multiple times essentially and just is there. But anyways, I love him. And he has this super, super adorable crush on Jesper. And also, that scene, it totally fooled me. Like, rereading it, I was like, it's so obvious that it's not Wylan, but I was so there. Like, I wanted this Jesper-Wylan kiss so badly that I was like, this is it. They're gonna kiss. And then they didn't. And I was like, I felt just as cheated as Jesper did. Like, it caught me.
Yeah, it's just like all Kuei had to do was like be in the proximity of a musical instrument to fool Jesper into thinking that he was Wylan.
Yeah.
He just like kind of was tapping on the piano and Jesper's like, Wylan likes music.
That must be him.
That's and then the one.
The whole like Wylan walks in on it, and there's the whole misunderstanding, and but then they still get together at the end, and it makes me so happy. And just like Wylan and Jesper makes me so happy because I still, anytime I read a book, I just assume there's no way any of the characters could actually be gay because they so rarely are. And then when, like, I was reading the first book and, like, I jokingly, when I first started reading it, was like, oh, Jesper has a crush on Kaz, but, like, I didn't think it was going to be an actual thing. And then as I read more, I was like, no, I think Jesper, like, actually has a crush on Kaz. And then I was like, oh, I bet Wylan has a crush on Jesper or whatever. And then I was like, no, Wylan actually has a crush on Jesper. And it just, like, that always, like, surprises me so much when it's, like, actually a legit thing. And the fact that they actually, like, Wylan and Jesper is just as much of an actual romance as Kaz and Inej or Matthias and Nina, just, like, it makes me so happy.
Yeah, no, and, this is true both of this story and of the Grisha trilogy, if anyone is wondering, because I know I always am. None of the queers die. This is very important.
That is true. Many characters do die, but none of the queer characters die.
The queer immortality is strong with this one.
It's true. The thing about the Grisha trilogy is I kind of had the reverse in that you had told me before I started reading it that they were lesbians, and so I kept expecting the lesbians, and in the end it was just sort of like side characters who I did love, and I was very happy for them.
I told you that they were side characters.
I didn't remember that, and there's different levels of side characters too, right? Like, there's like side characters who are just like not the main character, and then there's side characters. So like, I don't know, I just like kept looking for it and being like, where are the lesbians? Who's it gonna be? And then it was like adorable, and I was glad it was there, and it really established the fact that like people of different genders can love people of whatever gender, and it's not a big deal in this universe. But I was like slightly sad because like I wanted it to be like Genya and Zoya or something. But but it was still cute and good, and I can't even remember what was her name. Not it was Nadia and the sister, the girl that
oh my god, I literally just read her name in the book like an hour ago, and I don't know what it is. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. She's a very good character.
She's super good. Anyways, what I was trying to say is I love her and her brother. There's these two characters in the Grisha trilogy who are like part of this pirate crew, and those two were like my favorites as soon as they were introduced, and the fact that she was one of the lesbians did make me very happy. So it was still good, even though I wanted it to be slightly more main characters.
Yeah, and it was nice just like knowing, I don't know, I'm pretty easy to satisfy, so it's just like there was at least one lesbian present in every book in this series, and that's pretty good, and neither of them died.
Yeah. Oh no, totally. And like I said, like, I think if you hadn't told me that they were going to be lesbians and that just happened, I would have been so stoked because I would have been like, whoa, like, we never get lesbian characters. So I you know, my expectations were a little bit too high just because I've been told in advance. But that's okay.
I totally The Force Awakens you. I'm sorry.
But despite that, it was still really great. And then I like the fact that she had these sort of like side characters who are queer in the Grisha trilogy, and then when she wrote the next series, she totally upped that and was like, you know what? It's not going to be two random side characters. It's going to be half the main cast that are queer. And I was like, thank you, because Six of Crows and Gregor Kingdom are so good on so many levels, and that's part of why they make me so happy. Because there just needs to be more queer representation in media in general, and I'm always happy when there is. And especially when they're actually really, really good characters that I love. And in this case, they really, really are, because I love all of them. All right, question number 4, which I think we can go through really quickly, is do you contribute to this fandom? Do you like make any art or fanfic or cosplay or anything for Six of Crows? I don't think really.
Yeah, no, I like complain about seeing pictures of Nina that are skinny, and I think about how I'm gonna cosplay Nina one day when I learn how to sew.
You should.
But other than that, I know I'm totally gonna. But other than that, no, I don't.
Yeah. No, I have a little bit. I wrote a Six of Crows fanfic, which I wrote at the end of the second book when they freaking killed Matthias. I didn't even like Matthias that much in the first book, but by the end of the second book, I felt very betrayed that they killed him. And I wrote a whole fix-it fic about Nina bringing him back to life, with her death powers.
Don't forget that you drew that picture of Kaz that got reblogged by Leigh Bardugo.
That's true. I drew a picture of Kaz and Leigh Bardugo reblogged it, and it was the highlight of my life. Like, it was amazing.
That was also the best picture of Kaz.
Thank you. It was for like an expression meme, and someone sent me like draw Kaz with this expression, and it was like an expression of pure shock. And I doodled it, and then Leigh Bardugo reblogged it and said it was funny, and a bunch of people reblogged it, and it made me so happy because I love Leigh Bardugo, and the fact that she even glanced at art that I made and said it was funny like made my day. So that was the highlight of what I've contributed to the Six of Crows fandom. I've drawn some other like stuff of Wylan and Jesper, but that Kaz art
was some good shit.
The best thing I've ever drawn. But yeah, I do love this fandom. I like because there's not a ton of books I feel like that get like a significant fandom, but I do like that Six of Crows actually has quite a bit of fanfic, quite a bit of fan art, because a lot of books don't, and it makes me sad when I read a really good book and then there's no fandom. But Six of Crows actually has a decent fandom, which makes me super happy.
I think the fandom is definitely boosted by the fact that the author is active on Tumblr and like actively conversing with her fans, which is something I love about both Leigh Bardugo and Ann Leckie, who is the author of another really good series of books that you could read, the Ancillary Justice trilogy.
Oh, I've never heard of it. I should read that.
Oh my god, I need to tell you about it, but not during this
Yes, later
podcast.
You tell me about it. But yes, I really, really love that she's super active on Tumblr. She is constantly reblogging like art and stuff from fans, talking to fans. She's really great. I love it when creators talk to their fans. And she's so nice and so great, and she reblogged my art. So yeah, I think definitely her being active on Tumblr has contributed to it. And just the fact that it has a decently sized fandom makes me super, super happy. Because in case you couldn't tell, because I have a whole podcast about it, I love fandoms. I think fandom culture and people making art and things and talking about books and shows and stuff that they love is super, super great and makes me really happy. So it makes me happy when something I love has a good fandom.
It's also, can I just say that this fandom is like kind of a, what's that word?
I don't know.
Oh, this fandom is comorbid with two other fandoms that are also heavily feature Raven and Crow symbolism, which is the Raven cycle and All for the Game, which is about fake lacrosse. And I don't know why like these two enchanting fantasy stories and like fake lacrosse are all connected.
It's literally, I'm pretty sure, legitimately I think the reason why is because both the Raven Cycle and All for the Game have a book called The Raven King in their series, and I think people just accidentally found All for the Game because of the Raven Cycle, and then we're like, oh, this also has fun queer characters, and then also adopted it into their books that they love. I'm pretty sure literally the only reason why it has overlapped is because of those titles, and then the fact that like the characters appealed to people in the same ways.
I would also like keep coming with the queer books with the Carry-On Bird themes because like it's my jam.
It's good so far.
I love ravens and crows so much. Keep them in your books.
Yes.
My suggestions.
Yes. I like those gay crow books. They've been so good so far. Keep it up. But yeah, those fandoms have overlapped a lot, and I like them all. And it's they also are all books that have surprisingly large fandoms despite being books.
Yeah.
And yeah, one of them is about fake lacrosse, which is a little bit different from the fantasy ones, but all good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it is a fantasy book in that it, like, in real life, I would never care about fake lacrosse, so this is a fantasy I'm entertaining reading this book.
The only fantasy element of All for the Game is that the sport they're playing is made up. Like, everything else about it is, like, real life, except there's a made-up sport. It's not a magical sport. There's no magic in the sport. It's just a made-up sport.
Indoors.
It's just different lacrosse with like more mob ties. It's like lacrosse but with more mobs.
Yeah. Like, I need to make a Venn diagram of Six of Crows, the Raven Cycle, and All for the Game, and like Six of Crows and All for the Game will have like heavily features the mob. Like All for the Game and the Raven Cycle, the Raven King, and then like Six of Crows and the Raven Cycle have like good fantasy birds.
Yeah.
Some awesome magic.
That's about the only ways those books overlap. Yeah, and then in the middle of the Venn diagram, it's like found family and queer characters.
And heavy crow symbolism.
And heavy crow symbol and or raven symbolism.
Yes.
Yes.
Good stuff.
Good stuff. All right, so we're just about at the end. Do you have any other sort of final thought? Anything else you really want to talk about the Raven Cycle? Or sorry, about Six of Crows. Anything else you want to
Welcome to our new podcast, Crow Kids, where we talk about every carry-on bird themed book there is.
Yay! No, Six of Crows. Do you have any other things you want to say about Six of Crows before we wrap this up? Final thoughts
God, you're
about any of the
putting me
characters.
on the spot here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I mean, I could go to my final question, which was, do you have a favorite ship or relationship?
I mean, like,
You want to end on that?
absolutely. I think that Nina and Inej are gonna get together.
Yes.
And even if they don't in, their fantasy world, they are together in my heart.
Yes, Nina and Inej is a very good and excellent ship. Like, Kaz and Inej's relationship is very, very well done and interesting. And Nina and Matthias' relationship is very intrinsic to their characters. But Nina and Inej are in love and need to get waffles together.
Their relationship is made up of, like, softness and, like, mutual,
support.
like, saving each other's lives
Yes.
and, like, being each other's emotional support and, like, buying each other waffles.
I
and it's
know.
such a beautiful relationship
It's
that I want
so good.
to just
And they
think about
definitely
forever.
flirt in canon more than once.
all the time. All the time.
I really adore Inej and Nina's relationship.
Yeah.
I agree. I also really love Inej and Jesper's relationship.
Yeah.
Because they both, especially at first before Jesper and Wylan is a thing, Jesper and Inej are both very much in love with Kaz, but it's never like a love triangle thing. It's never a like, oh, Inej and Jesper hate each other because they like the same dude. They can't get along. It's like, they're such good friends who support each other, and they both just care about Kaz a lot, and they care about Kaz together, and they care about each other, and it's so, like, just wholesome, and it makes me so happy that Inej and Jesper are good friends instead of, like, rivals, because we both like Kaz. It's like, no, we really care about each other, and we care about him, and it's just really good.
I also like that, like, by the end of the second book, when Jesper is secure in his relationship with Wylan, and he can, like, view Kaz the way Kaz views him, which is, buried under all of that, like, being an asshole that Kaz has going for him. Like, it's very clear, especially at a very specific part in the second book, that Kaz views Jesper as a brother.
Yeah. And that eventually Jesper can, like, return that, like...
Yeah, without the romantic feelings. Because he's gotten over that part of his...
like, feelings for
Kaz. And it's just lovely.
It's so good. The relationships, the characters in these books are so good, and their relationships with each other are so good and complex. And you can take any two characters, and, like, the relationship between them is interesting and complex and beautiful, and... it just makes me really happy.
Yes.
Like, so good. Like, even, like, ones you wouldn't think necessarily, like Kaz and Wylan have such an interesting relationship.
Yes.
Like,
oh my god.
Like Kaz is, like, even though they're so different on the surface, because Kaz is this, like, hard ass, and he's cruel and hard and whatever, and then Wylan is, like, so soft, and he grew up with this rich kid, that Kaz totally sees so much of himself in Wylan, and has so much, like, affection for Wylan, and like, at first Wylan is sort of intimidated by Kaz, but then he starts to, like, just see that other side of Kaz. I don't know, they have really great moments.
Yeah, Kaz is, like, the first person who, when learning that Wylan couldn't read, didn't treat him like a defect. It was just like, oh yeah, I mean, like, people can't do things. Can you make a bomb? Because that's what I asked you here to do.
Yeah, that's what I need.
And
so
that, like, has a profound effect on Wylan. That is really great.
Yeah, just every combination of characters has
yeah.
such, and like Nina and Kaz.
Oh, Nina and Kaz
have
is
such a great dynamic
relationship.
Because Nina's the only one who like is not intimidated by Kaz at all. She doesn't take Kaz's bullshit, and he like seems to appreciate that. Like,
yeah, she's just like, yeah, that's funny. It's okay. I could stop your heart, but like, no, we can keep talking.
Yeah. And it's so good because everyone else, like even Jesper and Inej, who have so much respect for Kaz, are more intimidated by Kaz than Nina is. Like Nina just, God, I love them all so much.
I love like that Kaz just keeps accidentally being a good person, and like everybody calls him out on it, and he's like, no, it's just a good trade decision. And it's like, okay, Kaz, like, that's fine.
Okay,
You're
Kaz.
A better person than you realize.
You say
I mean,
so.
Kaz is horrible and ruthless and amazing, but he is also, like, once he cares about someone, he genuinely will do anything to keep them safe.
Oh, 100%. Kaz is incredibly loyal, whether he will admit it or not, because he says he's ruthless and will do anything, but no, when it's his family, his people, he absolutely will do anything for them. And he's such a good character.
As Kaz says, crows remember people's faces. They remember who harms them, and they remember who's kind to them.
Beautiful. A good quote to end on, I think.
I definitely didn't say that completely right, so...
It's okay. It was the sentiment.
As I misquote Kaz.
That general concept. They're just beautiful books.
Yeah.
Beautiful plot, beautiful characters, beautiful quality of writing. Please, if you haven't read them yet, go read them.
Yeah, and... obviously, like, I know we can't speak to the authenticity of all of these narratives, having not been through all of the specific things ourselves.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I can't say with certainty that, like, everyone's storyline is handled well, but as someone who has gone through some similar experiences and, like, found great comfort in the experiences of the characters of the books, I can at least vouch for, like, my experiences. And we're gonna put, like, a huge trigger warning on this episode, right? I mean, like, definitely we discussed addiction. To warn people, one of the characters is a human trafficking victim who is forced into prostitution for a short time and spends a lot of her time, that's Inej, she spends a lot of book time kind of recovering from that and dealing with that. So if that's something that is not like something you can deal with, you probably should not read these books at this time.
Yes, that's true. There is definitely a lot of heavy stuff in these books, and for some people reading about that can be comforting or good, and for some people definitely not, and so that is absolutely something to keep in mind. And yeah, like you said, this is a super good point that we can't vouch for everything obviously being perfect, and even experiences that maybe we've had that we found relatable or well written, for other people it won't seem that way, and so it can never be perfect, but what I can relate to, it seems well handled, and it seems overall quite good, I would say. But can't vouch for everything.
Please, everybody, if you can, if you will, please read these books. Please grow this fandom. Contribute like I haven't been. But make this into something big, and then when I get like a Crow Club tattoo, people may actually know what it means sometimes, because that's gonna happen someday, and I would really like to be able to show it off. It's gonna be.
It's gonna be an amazing tattoo, and it's an amazing books that meant a lot to us, so they might mean a lot to you if you read them. Yes, so thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed us talking about Six of Crows. I hope if you haven't read Six of Crows, you're going to go read it now. And if you have read it, I hope you enjoyed listening to us talk about it and you share some of our thoughts about it. So if you're listening to this on YouTube, you can comment below and let us know if you've read it. And if you enjoyed this podcast, you can also like it and subscribe. I do one of these every month, talking about a different fandom with a different friend. And I will also link to the previous episodes. I've done one about Homestuck, one about One Piece, one about Avatar. And if you're listening to this on SoundCloud, I think you can also like it. You can definitely subscribe, listen to more of it. And yeah, just say thank you to Theo for being an awesome friend and awesome person to talk about fun fandoms with. I'm sure you'll be on this podcast again someday because we have a lot of the same fandoms. We are into a lot of the same stuff. And it was really fun.
Yay.
So thank you for listening, and I hope you like Sets of Crows. Bye.
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 It's really cute how you do the thing where you wave even though no one can see you.
Look, I'm waving in my heart. Everyone can tell.
Just so everyone knows, she is waving frantically at the Skype camera. Only to me.
Bye.
Bye.